Welcome to our AP Environmental Science video on a global impacting issue about overpopulation.
This video is brought to you by Ricardo Avila, Destiny Estrada, and Brianna Ruiz.
2.
Hello my fellow classmates. Today we're going to be talking about overpopulation. First, I'm going to explain to you guys what it means or what it is in case you don't know. Overpopulation is an undesirable condition where the number of existing human population exceeds the carrying capacity of Earth. So basically, maybe there's too many people to be supported by what the Earth provides with its resources. So some of the causes are good food production, improvement in public health, illiteracy, poverty, and disease control or prevention. The causes are positive, but it allows for the amount of people alive to grow exponentially. It creates shortages in food, work, poor living conditions, resource exhaustion. At the root of overpopulation is the difference between the overall birth rate and death rate in populations. The birth rate is more, so it isn't stable. In other words, more babies are being born than adults dying, so it's not at replacement level. Also, what I mean by the causes are positive, that means more people are staying alive than they're supposed to be dying, like natural selection, so the population keeps on growing.
So to begin, many of y'all might be wondering how the issue of overpopulation relates to the economy. So economic problems in an overpopulated world lead to many issues, some of them being the shortage of food, minerals, fuel, and other resources. Resources that are produced in different parts of the world, many of them which we use to trade and gain profit from. Decreasing the limited resources that we already have means that it'll decrease the trade with other countries, reducing their income to the country, therefore losing profit that people use for social security, healthcare, and education. This economic stand is especially difficult to deal with in developing countries where famine and harvest are common. In the later clip, Destiny will describe why. How long was that?
So as we can see here, the graph depicts how our population is growing at an exponential rate.
Hey guys, so you guys just finished learning about how overpopulation can affect us economically and politically. So now I'm going to speak to you guys on how overpopulation can drastically affect us socially, health-wise, and educationally. First things first, I'm going to talk to you about how it can affect us socially. If our global economy goes down, it can change our day-to-day lives drastically. If income levels drop, it could lead to increased poverty. Increased poverty may increase crime, and it most likely will. We can't say for certain because it hasn't happened, but there's a likely chance that it will. And the reason crime would increase was because, say, a typical mother who has 3 children, or she's alone, or it doesn't matter, just if she can't meet her end-to-end needs to provide for her children, she might look at other ways to make this money, even if it's illegally, or it's just not approved of, or it's by theft, or who knows. So crime can increase. With dropped level incomes, both parents in households could be forced to work. And with both parents working, it would lead to children being unsupervised throughout the day. Unsupervised children are probably some of the most dangerous things to do, because a child can do whatever they want or whatever they feel like because mommy and daddy are working and they can't tell them what to do. Overpopulation will first affect the lower class of the population. As a lower class, many people are already barely meeting their bare minimum of daily needs. With more people, there will be less resources to distribute to them. So if there's already like a certain amount of people in the city who are already having so much assistance because they can't meet their end-to-end needs, with more people coming in, it'll be less to distribute. So if you were getting this and this before, you may only get a small, tiny portion of it because there just isn't as much to give out as there was before. Okay guys, so now we're going to talk about how overpopulation affects us health-wise. So health-wise, We're affected because overcrowding could lead to more spread of diseases. Tightly clump people into an area, it makes it easier for airborne illnesses to spread around. Because if my neighbor has the flu and that other neighbor has the flu, the front neighbor has the flu, I'm most likely to get the flu because we're so tightly compact. And whenever there's so many people in the world, we'll probably have to cut down on the sizes of our homes. But that's just an iffy one. It could also create more polluted water supplies, and if we pollute our water supplies, it'll deplete our natural water resources eventually. And as of right now, less than 1% of Earth's water is drinkable. So imagine having our population tripled, maybe like multiplied by 10 even. Water is essential for life. It's needed for everything. You use it for cooking, you use it for cleaning, you use it for growing vegetables, you use it for basically anything. Water also contributes to our hygiene. So if we have poor hygiene, it leads to an increase of bacteria and spread of disease. If you're not washing your hands anymore, if I'm not washing my hands anymore, no one's bathing anymore, we're just leaving all the bacteria we come in contact with throughout the day, and it's just weakening our immune system. Or it can also, by having poor hygiene, you can spread disease easily, because if you sneezed on your hand and you touch this and you touch that and now you're touching your eyes, it's just a bad rap for getting sick. Overpopulation can also contribute to scarce food sources, which apply to us health-wise because it can weaken our body and immune system. Not having the right energy and nutrition for your day-to-day needs, it just makes your body vulnerable. It also decreases our lifespan because you're not as healthy as you once were before. How are you expecting to live as long as you thought you would, as healthy as a horse? If you don't have enough energy input and nutrition you need for your day-to-day needs, you will decrease your energy output. So it'll make it more difficult for you to do the job you once could before. It'll make it even difficult to get out of bed because you just don't have that energy to do it anymore. If you do that, we'll have smaller work communities because people aren't eating as much. They can't do that anymore. They can't go build houses anymore. They can't do that because I don't even have my energy to get out of bed. How are you expecting that person to get out and go build a house? Now we're going to move on to education. So educationally, if we have an overabundance of people in an area and they all have kids, overcrowding in classrooms is going to happen. And if overcrowding in classrooms happens, it'll be harder for a student to focus because there's so many things going on in one room. And with so many kids in one room, it'll be more difficult for a teacher to pay attention to each one and help them with what that person needs compared to what this person needs. It'll also mean a lower student of teacher to student ratio, which isn't always good and ideal because the more students, the less control a teacher has. There's also going to be an increase of demand for education because there's so many children, right? But schools will most likely start charging tuition and meals because they're no longer getting as much money as they could from the state. So now they need money from students because the state's not paying them. Teachers aren't getting paid. So now the students have to pay for their education everywhere. Less children will be educated though, because if a household barely has money to meet their needs of food, water, and electricity, how are they expected to also supply money for their school? It'll just lead to less education throughout the world. And that's all I got for health and education point.
I have some potential solutions on how we can face this problem before it gets worse. One of them is to empower women all over the world. Women with access to reproductive health services find it easier to break out of poverty, while those who work are more likely to use birth control. You can also educate people by promoting family planning. Simply educating men and women about contraception can have a big impact.
My solution to overpopulation is to limit childbearing to the parent replacement level, which is 2 per family, enough to replace the mom and the dad.
My solution can be a tax applied to you after you've had the max suggested children by the law. An ideal limit would be enough to replace the parent.
If we don't change our ways, there will be no one left to see the sunrises.